capture of an escaped inmate out of Alabama, and the death of the officer who helped him escape is prompting memories of a very similar story from upstate New York. Richard Matt and David Sweat escaped the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora in June 2015. Here's some of our coverage from that day in this breaking news edition of News Vault 13.
Dan, these two convicted killers were discovered missing from their maximum security prison cells during a bed check around 5:30 this morning, prompting a manhunt and a ripple of concern for people's safety across the state. Police say two killers broke free from their maximum security prison cells in the middle of the night, prompting a massive manhunt and widespread concern for public safety.
They are dangerous, and we want to make sure that they don't inflict any more pain or any more harm on any New Yorkers.
Governor Cuomo says 48-year-old Richard Matt and 34-year-old David Sweat used power tools to cut through their steel prison cells, maneuvered through a maze of pipes and tunnels, finally escaping to freedom through a manhole.
It was elaborate, it was sophisticated.
Cuomo says Matt and Sweat are the first prisoners to escape from the maximum security part of the Clinton Correctional Facility since it opened in 1865. He says the killers crafted clothed dummies to make it look like they were sleeping and left a goodbye note before cutting through this steel pipe.
How did they get the power tools? From who? How? So we'll undertake a full investigation to make sure that this was the first and the last time anyone escaped from this facility.
Sweat was found guilty of killing a Broome County sheriff. Matt was convicted for beating a man to death. Now authorities are concerned what they might do while on the loose.
If he killed a police officer once, I don't think he would think twice to do it again.
Law enforcement agencies across the state are on the lookout. Bus terminals and the Albany airport are on heightened alert. Sheriff Apple says neighborhoods should be too.
We want everybody to be on your toes, keep your cars locked, keep your doors locked, pay attention to what's going on in your community.
The U.S. Marshal for the Northern District of New York is offering a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of Sweat and Matt. Sheriff Apple says there's no indication right now they're headed this way, but if you spot them, do not approach them. Call authorities immediately. Reporting live, Anna Myler, News Channel 13. Back to you, Dan.
The manhunt lasted days.
Police are also questioning an employee at the prison where the inmates escaped, but aren't revealing what she's told them. Jessica Layton continues our coverage live from Dannemora tonight. And Jess, we understand there's been some police activity there this evening. What's going on?
Jim, in the last hour, police have had the woods surrounded just a couple of miles from here. Let's show you what we saw just a few minutes ago. It's raining, foggy, and pitch black, but there has been a chopper flying around, circling that area, and right now several roads are blocked off. We also saw officers lined up, circling the perimeter with their guns. Now, all this action might turn out to be nothing, but we have been here all week, and I can tell you the intensity we saw just now, well, we haven't witnessed anything else like that at night since we got here. State police tonight say they are following up on at least 500 leads. One of them is the tip that these guys may have tried to take off for Vermont, about 22 miles from here. With the faces of those convicted killers as the backdrop, the governors of New York and Vermont announced troopers from each state are teaming up in the already massive manhunt for Richard Matt and David Sweat.
They thought that New York was going to be hot, Vermont would be cooler in terms of law enforcement, and that a camp in Vermont might be a better place to be than New York.
They didn't elaborate on the tip and were quick to say this is no time for anyone to let their guard down. That's not a problem here.
I have the doors locked, I have my shotgun loaded.
The dangerous duo busted out of the maximum security prison in cinematic style last Saturday morning. With weapons drawn Wednesday, DEC police dressed in camouflage focused on the forest and swampland near the prison. Officers with the Department of Corrections marched through nearby neighborhoods, scouring yards, checking on trailers, and knocking on doors.
But I am nervous about them not catching them sooner than I thought they would.
Hundreds of law enforcement officers retracing their steps block by block with more urgency than ever to recapture two murderers who wouldn't think twice about killing again.
There's no reason to believe they wouldn't do it again. They're going to be more desperate than ever. So we're doing everything we can. It's a top priority to find them and to bring them back.
And today, Governor Andrew Cuomo said he's very confident they'll be caught, but when is the question. Jim?
Thanks very much, Jess. Stay with News Channel 13 for continuing coverage of the prison escape. We'll keep you updated on any developments as they happen on air and online at WNYT.com, Facebook and Twitter. And of course, if Jess finds anything out on this latest development between now and the end of our broadcast tonight, of course she'll let us know on air and also online.
Eventually, Matt was shot and killed. Sweat was shot and arrested a couple days later.
Jessica Layton has been covering this manhunt every step of the way these past 3 weeks. She is live at Albany Medical Center tonight, where a doctor gave a briefing on Sweat a little while ago. Good evening, Jessica.
Hi, Kumi, and we know that David Sweat is here in critical condition tonight. He's getting treatment for those 2 gunshot wounds to the torso. Now, doctors would not answer my question when I asked if he is able to talk, but we do know surgery is a possibility, and he is expected to be here for, quote, a series of several days. Now, arrived here around 9 o'clock tonight, brought in by Mohawk ambulance with lights flashing and a police escort after being flown to Albany International Airport from Malone. And when that ambulance pulled up here tonight, people on the streets were cheering, they were clapping, they were chanting. There was incredible relief that the manhunt is really over now. Now, a doctor tells us David Sweat is in a secure area of the hospital that is intended for prisoners with extensive injuries. They painted a picture of a patient in terrible shape. Here's what that doctor said about his treatment.
This patient was initially evaluated in the emergency department and then taken to a clinical location in the hospital that is appropriate for his level of care. So far, the specialists involved in his care include doctors in the emergency department, trauma, intensive care, radiology, and vascular surgery. At this time, his condition is listed as critical.
Now, the capture happened late this afternoon, about 1.5 miles from the Canadian border. Outside the perimeter area, 1,000 armed officers were guarding. A state police sergeant was on patrol. He saw Sweat jogging on the side of the road. He called to Sweat. Sweat ran off. That's when the sergeant shot him twice and then went and made the capture himself. An absolute hero, and tonight the governor is celebrating along with the rest of the state.
I had the chance to speak with Sergeant Cook and congratulate him on his great police work. He was alone when this happened. Sergeant Cook happens to be from Troop B, which is this area, so he knew the area very well. But he was still alone, and it was a very courageous act. I said to Sergeant Cook, who has 2 daughters, 16 and 17, I said, well, you go home tonight and tell your daughters that you're a hero. With teenage girls, that'll probably last a good 24 hours, and then you'll just go back to being a regular dad. Now that we have Mr. Sweat, it gives us the opportunity to have some more questions and provide more facts on the overall situation. Anyone who we find who was culpable and guilty of cooperating in this escape will be fully prosecuted.
And so, in the words of Governor Andrew Cuomo tonight, the nightmare is over. These 2 killers terrorized the state and especially the North Country with their escape 3 weeks ago. Tonight, the manhunt is over. Richard Matt shot and killed on Friday afternoon by Border Patrol Special Forces. David Sweat shot and captured, getting treated right now here at Albany Medical Center. He is again in critical condition tonight. Reporting live from Albany, Jessica Layton, News Channel 13. Kumi, back to you.
Jessica, were the officers hoping to capture at least one of the inmates alive?
I'm sorry, Kumi, I need you to repeat that question. I lost you for a second.
Were the officers hoping to capture at least one of the inmates alive?
Absolutely. They have made mention of that from the start. They needed to capture at least one of them alive, hoping that they would get information on the escape and who helped them and exactly what went down within those prison walls. As the governor said tonight, the nightmare is over, but the investigation continues. But as I said earlier, I asked doctors specifically, can David Sweat speak? They would not answer. And because he's in critical condition and undergoing surgery, possibly a strong possibility of that, I don't know that he's able to give the answers that police so desperately need right now.
Thanks very much, Jessica, for that update tonight and for all of your coverage over the past 3 weeks.
And we had so many stories from that Dannemora manhunt. As the anniversaries of these big events come, we'll dig even deeper into News Vault 13. For now, opening News Vault 13, I'm Rachel Tiede.